Level 1. The first hammer. The auctioneer is already calling numbers when the sedan rolls beneath the lights. You have written your limit on the back of a folded registration form, but the bidder across the lane raises his hand one more time. The difference is only $200. You lift your paddle. A week earlier, you were standing inside a dealership while an appraiser offered thousands less than you expected for your aging coupe. Your job pays reliably, but every raise disappears into rent, insurance, and repairs. When you compare the trade-in offer with online retail listings, the gap looks enormous. You decide dealerships are not creating value. They simply understand where to buy. Now the hammer falls, and the sedan is yours. The winning price feels like proof. Then the auction clerk adds the buyer fee. The battery barely turns the engine over. One tire is close to the wear bars. The interior smells like old fast food. And the title will take several days to arrive. None of it looks serious enough to ruin the deal. You spend your evenings cleaning the seats, replacing the battery, photographing every angle, and writing an advertisement that sounds confident without promising too much. The title arrives on the third day. The next afternoon, the first serious buyer negotiates hard enough to make you hesitate. The profit in your head is larger than the money actually available after fees and parts. You accept the offer anyway. After every expense, you keep a few $100s, less than you imagined, but more than you have ever made from a single decision outside your regular job. That small profit teaches you the wrong lesson. You do not remember that you exceeded your limit. You do not focus on the weak battery or the days spent waiting for the title. You remember only the hammer, the resale price, and the moment someone paid more than you did. By the next auction, your budget is larger, your confidence is louder, and the line you promised never to cross has already started to move. Level 2. The cost after the price. The next lesson arrives as a stack of receipts. You buy 3 cars within 10 days because each one appears to leave enough room between the hammer price and the retail market. On paper, the spread looks better than the sedan that started everything. In reality, the expenses arrive from different directions. One car needs a second key before buyers will take it seriously. Another sits at the auction yard because the transporter misses the pickup window. The third has tires that pass a quick glance but fail inspection once the tread is measured properly. Then come the online bidding fee, the loading charge, the title processing cost, the advertising subscription, and the battery that dies the morning of a scheduled test drive. You keep the early sales within the private sale rules of your state and use licensed access when a dealer-only auction requires it. Even so, the pace is already showing you that this cannot remain an informal side hustle forever. Maya, a title and logistics coordinator you meet through another buyer, begins sending you updates in plain numbers. She does not tell you whether a car is good or bad. She tells you when storage starts, when payment is due, whether the title is ready, and how much a delayed pickup will cost. Your profit sheet becomes less exciting every day. You create a new column labeled All-In Cost, but several boxes remain estimates because you still want to believe the margin is there. When the cars finally sell, none of them loses money by itself. Together, however, they earn less than the profit you expected from one. Which auction cost do you think beginners underestimate the most? You should respond by lowering your bids. Instead, you decide the problem is that the cars were too ordinary. A larger spread, you tell yourself, will absorb the fees. At the next sale, you stop searching for the cheapest transportation. You start searching for a vehicle with enough apparent profit to make every overlooked cost feel irrelevant. Level 3. The green light win. The dealer auction moves faster than the public sales you know. Cars enter the lane with engines running, condition reports glowing on screens, and announcements disappearing beneath the auctioneer's voice. You have seconds to compare mileage, market value, transport, repairs, title status, and the price already climbing above you. You learn the sale lights quickly. Green does not mean perfect. Yellow limits what the sale guarantees. Red means the vehicle is being sold under restricted as is terms. Blue tells you the title is not immediately available. Every color changes what you can dispute and how quickly you must act. Then a white work pickup enters the lane. Its bed is scratched, one rear quarter panel is dented, and the interior looks like it spent years carrying tools. Most buyers see cosmetic damage that will weaken a retail advertisement. You see a truck that does not need to impress anyone. Its next owner will care about payload, maintenance, and whether it starts before sunrise. You calculate the buyer fee, transport, detailing, and a conservative resale price. The number leaves more margin than anything you have purchased before. The bidding begins. You stay beneath your written limit and win. Within 2 weeks, a landscaping contractor buys the truck without asking for the dent to be repaired. After every recorded expense, the profit is larger than several months of your earlier flips combined. If you enjoy seeing what really happens between the hammer price and the resale profit, like the video and subscribe. Maya reminds you that one successful truck does not change the meaning of the sale light, the title status, or your inspection responsibility. You agree, but your behavior changes anyway. At the next auction, you increase your buying budget. The higher limit feels supported by experience. What you do not admit is that the green light now feels safer than it did before, and your ability to recognize value has started to feel stronger than the rules designed to control it. Level 4. The arbitration window. The luxury crossover rolls off the transporter while the auction's arbitration clock is already running. You bought it because the spread looked too wide to ignore. The history report showed no major title brand. The condition report listed ordinary wear. The auction light appeared to offer enough protection for a careful buyer. Most important, the retail price in your market made the winning bid feel disciplined. Even after, you pushed past the number on your sheet. For the first 10 minutes, the vehicle seems fine. Then the transmission begins to shudder after it warms up. A warning light returns after several drive cycles. The title is still unavailable, and the shop cannot give you a complete answer without opening part of the system. Maya asks whether you documented the symptoms, reviewed the announcement, and contacted arbitration before authorizing repairs. You hear her, but you are already thinking about the retail margin. If the repair stays below a certain number, you tell yourself, the deal still works. You approve the diagnosis. Then the first repair. When that fails, you approve another. Each payment makes walking away feel less reasonable because admitting the mistake would turn every earlier dollar into a confirmed loss. Meanwhile, the title remains delayed. The crossover cannot be sold cleanly. Your cash is trapped, and other buying opportunities pass while you wait. By the time the dispute is reviewed, parts have been removed, work has begun, and several costs are no longer recoverable. The protection you thought came with the sale never promised to reimburse your lost time, advertising, or repairs authorized before arbitration was settled. You eventually sell the crossover at a reduced price. The money coming back is less than the winning bid, fees, transport, repairs, and weeks of carrying cost combined. One vehicle erases nearly all the profit from the months before it. The transporter is gone. The buyer is gone. There is no new opportunity waiting outside. Now you understand that a bad acquisition cannot always be repaired into a good deal. Level 5. The licensee. Reset. The office is almost empty when you sign the last page. There are no polished cars outside, no customers waiting, and no profit hiding behind the paperwork. What you have instead is a lease, an insurance quote, a bond requirement, a stack of title forms, and rules that change depending on the state where you operate. After the crossover loss, you stop asking which vehicle can make the most money. You start asking whether you are building a business that can survive a mistake. You complete the licensing process required for the way you plan to buy and resell vehicles. You study record keeping, tax documents, title reassignment, and when a buyer's guide must be displayed for a retail sale. Dealer-only access is no longer something borrowed through a broker. It becomes part of a business that can be inspected, documented, and held responsible. Most of your remaining cash disappears before you buy another car. The bond does not increase resale value. Insurance does not shorten transport time. Office rent does not make an engine run better. Every dollar spent on infrastructure feels less satisfying than a winning bid, but it removes risks you once treated as background noise. Maya begins tracking each purchase from payment through release, transport, title arrival, and final sale. Together, you build a sheet with 3 numbers that must exist before any bid: the target retail price, the wholesale floor, the maximum all-in acquisition cost. You also create a holding limit. If a vehicle cannot meet the original exit plan within that window, it must be repriced or returned to wholesale before Pride turns it into another crossover. The new system makes you slower. You watch several attractive cars sell beneath prices you once would have chased. Each missed deal feels like lost income. Then the lane moves on, and your money remains available for the next vehicle. Your maximum bid is now written in ink before the auction begins, and it no longer changes when someone else raises a paddle. Level 6. The boring money. A row of white cargo vans sits beneath the auction lights, and not one of them attracts a crowd. A year earlier, you would have walked past them to chase a luxury sedan or performance coupe with a larger theoretical margin. Now you study maintenance records, cargo dimensions, tire condition, common failure points, and the cost of putting each vehicle back to work. That is how you meet Andre. He runs a small commercial service company and needs a van that can carry equipment every morning without creating another problem for his crew. He does not care whether the paint is impressive. He asks whether the transmission shifts cleanly, whether replacement parts are easy to find, when the title will arrive, and what the delivered price will be. His questions change the way you look at inventory. Basic pickups, compact fleet sedans, ordinary crossovers, and work vans replace the luxury inventory you once chased. The vehicles are less exciting, and the gross profit on each one is smaller, but they need fewer explanations, attract practical buyers, and spend less time consuming insurance, storage, and attention. Before every bid, you call or message people who have bought similar vehicles before. You stop asking only what a car could sell for. You ask how many real buyers are already looking for it. Andre buys the first van after an independent inspection. You make less than you once earned on the green light pickup, but the cash returns quickly enough to buy again the following week. Then another fleet buyer calls. Your business becomes steadier without looking more successful from the outside. There are no dramatic rebuilds, no rare finds, and no single sale large enough to tell a story about. There is only money leaving, returning, and leaving again before the vehicle has time to become a problem. The next van is sold before you finish writing the advertisement. Level 7. The two-state spread. A map replaces the auction lane on your desk. Colored lines connect fleet sales, transport yards, cold weather markets, and cities where the same vehicle sells at a different price. You begin to see that a car does not have one market value. Its value changes with location, season, fuel prices, local supply, and the people who need it there. All-wheel drive crossovers sit longer in warm regions, but move quickly before winter farther north. Work vans appear in large batches when a fleet company replaces equipment, then become scarce hundreds of miles away. You stop looking only for underpriced vehicles. You start looking for price differences between markets. The first few transfers work. You buy conservatively, add transport before setting the bid, and leave room for inspection and delays. Maya schedules carriers, tracks releases, and warns you whenever storage begins before pickup. Andre takes 2 commercial units that would have been ordinary inventory anywhere else but are immediately useful in his market. The margins are better than the boring local flips, but the money moves more slowly. Then 3 all-wheel drive vehicles are scheduled to arrive just before the first major cold front. A carrier cancellation pushes pickup back. A highway closure delays the replacement truck. By the time the vehicles reach the northern market, the storm has passed and competing inventory has already arrived. Nothing is wrong with the cars. The timing is wrong. Every day, the spreadsheet still shows a spread. Every day, transport, insurance, and missed demand make it smaller. You begin using historical sales to predict which regions will pay more next month. The numbers reward you often enough that prediction starts to feel like control. You believe conservative estimates can absorb nearly any delay. But a price gap only matters while both sides of the market remain where you expected them to be. When the last vehicle is finally listed, winter demand still exists, but it is no longer waiting only for you. Level 8, the 11-car position. The dashboard changes before any of the vehicles move. 11 compact SUVs sit across 2 transport yards and your lot, all the same model year, all close enough in mileage and trim to compete with one another. A fleet seller released them in one batch, and the first unit sold below your target. Then the second did too. By the time other buyers stopped bidding, you believed you were watching supply turn into opportunity. Historical sales supported the decision. The segment had moved quickly the previous year. Parts were common, financing was easy, and the buyer pool was broad. You bought the third SUV, then the fourth, telling yourself each additional unit lowered your average acquisition cost. When the auction ended, you owned 11 versions of the same assumption. At first, nothing looks wrong. The vehicles pass inspection with ordinary reconditioning. Titles arrive. Advertisements go live. But demand slows before your inventory does. More fleet sellers release similar units. Wholesale comparisons fall. Retail listings multiply. Buyers who once accepted the asking price now arrive with screenshots of cheaper vehicles. Every reduction that helps one SUV sell makes the remaining 10 harder to defend. You try to protect the original margin by lowering prices slowly. Transport invoices come due. Insurance continues. Cash that should be funding new purchases remains trapped in vehicles competing for the same customers. Better opportunities appear at auction, but you cannot act without borrowing or selling something first. Maya studies the inventory report and points to the line where you listed 11 separate VINs. They're not 11 separate deals, she says. They're one market bet. The sentence forces you to see what condition reports could not show. None of the SUVs is a disaster. The concentration is the defect. At what point would you stop waiting for the market and take the loss? That night, you open the auction calendar. For years, you have used it to plan what to buy next. This time, you are searching for the earliest sale where you can send the SUVs back through the lane. Level 9. The wholesale exit. For the first time, you stand on the seller's side of the auction lane. The SUVs are lined up with condition reports, corrected paperwork, and announcements prepared for anything buyers must know. You set reserve prices low enough to attract bidding, but high enough to protect part of the capital still trapped in them. The first vehicle enters. The opening bid is below what you paid months earlier. The number climbs, then stops. Your old instinct tells you to no-sale it and wait for a better market. You can still imagine demand returning and every price reduction being reversed. But keeping the vehicle would not reverse anything. It would only postpone the moment the loss became visible. You lower the reserve. The hammer falls. One SUV after another sells beneath your original acquisition cost. Auction fees reduce the proceeds again. Each sale creates a red number on the report, but it also returns cash that has been unavailable for weeks. If you would let the hammer confirm the loss, like the video and subscribe. The sixth SUV receives almost no interest. You consider pulling it from the sale. Then you remember the luxury crossover, the repairs, the delayed title, and the money you kept spending because accepting the first mistake felt worse than making a second one. This time, you let the market answer. By the end of the sale, every SUV you consigned is gone. The realized loss is painful, but it is smaller than the open-ended cost of waiting, borrowing, insuring, and discounting the position through another season. There is no applause. Maya closes the title files and updates the cash balance. Andre buys none of the SUVs because none fits his operation. That matters now. You finally understand that a buyer who does not exist cannot be created by a lower spreadsheet estimate. The final SUV scheduled for the sale clears the lane below your purchase price. Watching it disappear does not feel like victory. But the account is no longer trapped inside an assumption that expired months ago. A losing sale has given you back something more useful than margin. It has given you the ability to choose again. Level 10, the buyer before the bid. Anne's message arrives before the cargo van enters the lane. He needs enough interior height for equipment racks, a vehicle that passes an independent inspection, and a delivered price that leaves room in his operating budget. Maya has already checked the title status. You have added the buyer fee, transport, tires, and a conservative repair allowance. The maximum bid is written beside the wholesale floor. A performance coupe appears first. It is the kind of car that once would have pulled you into the contest. The paint is bright, the engine note turns heads, and the estimated retail margin is larger than anything available on the van. But no buyer is waiting for the coupe. You watch the bids climb past the number that would have made sense. Walking away no longer feels like losing. It feels like keeping the option to buy something with a known exit. Then the cargo van rolls forward. The bidding is slower. Nobody leans over the rail to photograph it. You follow your sheet instead of the room. When another buyer raises the price, you respond once. When he stops, so do you. The hammer falls below your limit. There is no celebration. Maya confirms the release instructions and schedules the inspection. Andre reviews the estimated delivery date. If the van fails the agreed conditions, you still have a wholesale floor and a second commercial buyer who purchases similar units. You no longer buy a vehicle and then search for a reason someone should want it. You begin with the person, the use, the numbers, and the exit. The car comes last. The van has not left the auction grounds, but the path ahead of it is already clear. The flip was decided before you bid.